the weaponization of language, how language becomes a weapon of manipulation, fear, and greed, and people constantly swaying what you are doing, what you are thinking. And it's the government, it's the media, it's the people at the top, your overlords, telling you what to think by showing you what you should be thinking about and how long you should be thinking about it. There's an old saying that you can't tell someone what to think, but you can tell them what to think about. That is what we're going to dive into today. And really, this weaponization of language that is so pervasive in culture and really one of the biggest sicknesses we have. And really, the last 100 years, companies, media, and politicians using this, using the weaponization of compassion, using human nature's goodwill against them and weaponizing that against them, using it through language mainly. And this is one of the most insidious things that postmodernism, Fabianism, progressivism, socialism, communism has done to our culture and destroying the culture. When you go past, removing God from society and in breaking the money, it goes right in quickly then into marketing, into branding, into sales, and using emotion against human beings. And that's how we make decisions. We aren't making decisions based off of logic as human beings. We're using it based off emotions. And over the last 100 years, the overlords have gotten very, very, very good. And this is like Klaus Schwab's great narrative, right? They have gotten very, very adept at controlling the narrative and controlling words and changing the definitions of words. Liberal used to mean, it was, you have to say classically liberal now. Liberal used to mean, conservative basically. Liberal used to mean, the people that were on what we think of the right end of the spectrum today in today's modern world, because those people are open-minded. And 100 years ago, the Fabianists, communists, they stole the word progressive, liberal, and made it their own, and that they were the ones that were progressive and liberal because they controlled the media. Woodrow Wilson started the White House Correspondents' Dinner, got in bed with the media, and it really started in that progressive area in the early 1900s, early 20th century. And that's where things really started to take off, and using newspaper and using these different mediums and radio to then start reshaping the narrative and reshaping language. And now we see it now with marriage, redefining definitions of gender and marriage. So picture this. You're wandering through the word salad of corporate media, which is one of the signs of cognitive dissonance, right? Word salad, corporate media and government doublespeak, trying to make sense of what is being conveyed. It's like deciphering a code, but instead of uncovering treasure, you're left with confusion. Good luck. Well, here we're going to unveil the art of weaponizing language and give you some examples so you can start to see and start to discern what is happening in your own life, where governments use fear and greed as psychological weapons to manipulate their own people. In a world of misinformation and psychological warfare, we must be adept and aware of the way in which fear and greed are used to hypnotize the public. Remember that word again, hypnotize. Our attention has been hijacked from us as well. That's why our attention spans are so low. That's what fiat does. It raises people's time preference. So their attention span is so minuscule they can't even focus and pay attention to what is going on because they're so worried about getting the almighty dollar. They're so worried about getting ahead of the Joneses. They're so worried, and that's what fiat does to you. And it hypnotizes the public. Governments, media, and companies use mass formation through weaponizing words and compassion, basically the goodwill of humans, against their own interests. Let's look at some common terms you might know or find in everyday life that may not mean exactly what you think they do. And the Psychology of Totalitarianism by Matthias Desmet is he is famous for the mass formation, which you've heard about in the last few years. And one of the big things, one of the books I've been talking about a lot, The Conspirators' Hierarchy, The Community of 300, really talks about the UFOs. We've seen UFOs in the news lately, and that's one of the things. This guy wrote this decades and decades ago, like 30, 40, 50 years ago, wrote this, published it in the early 90s, talking about how UFOs are like one of the last things that governments use or will use to basically see how gullible society is. And then depending on what happens and how many people kind of fall for that, then they can go for their full takeover. The whole book is about that. It's about the people at the top controlling everything and how they hypnotize the public, quite honestly. And this is something that most people never heard of. You're called conspiracy theorists. You're called all these crazy things. And again, that's That's the dark side using fear and propaganda to get you to turn away from truth, to get you to turn away from the light and stay in the dark. They want darkness. Evil wants darkness. They want people not knowing, right? We go back to slaves. We go back to everything, right? When we were keeping people in the dark, you have control over them. And that's what is happening here. That's why you can get a history degree in the United States in many colleges and not take a history class. That's why no one has learned the Founding Fathers. For decades, no one learns it. No one learns our history and what's actually happening, what actually happened. And there's a lot of revisionist history. It's because they don't want us knowing, right? When I say they, I mean the people at the top. I mean government, politicians, media, the moguls who are owning, a lot of, let's be honest, a lot of the companies, a lot of the people that own these things, just like 1902, the federal, the Board of Education, General Board of Education, Rockefeller, he wanted doers, not thinkers. Even the entrepreneurs, many of the entrepreneurs, they don't want the ladder there for people to climb up as well and compete with them. They want to pull up the ladder. And that's what politicians are doing. That's what's happening. When we don't have a free market, we've destroyed the money, we've taken God out of society, we've taken humility out, we've weaponized the language. We now have a world where people feel like they can't get up and they can't do anything. And for many people, they're right, quite honestly. If you have the ambition, and you have the wherewithal to do it, you still can. There's no doubt you still can. But you shouldn't preclude most of the society from being successful. And the average person should be able to go and spend less than they make each month and save the difference and get ahead in life. And no one seemingly can do that. Most people can't do that, as evidenced by the massive credit card debt usage, low savings, on and on and on. So reading this book, I just started reading this book actually, a phenomenal book. We have to start understanding the psychology of what's going on in order to, everyone. The thing I've realized lately too is that people don't want to really take action, quite honestly, a lot of times. And I've seen it firsthand, and I'm guilty of it too, right? We want things easy. We want things right there for us. We want to just have it happen, especially in this world where our attention is hijacked and we want to do fun things and easy things because life is so easy now, especially in the West, that we have things so easy. We forgot what it's like to work hard, truly work hard. And this is now coming back to bite us. So this book is massive to see what is actually happening in the world and how we're being controlled through fear and greed and that mind control. The Federal Reserve, for instance, a private federal mystery, right? Let's start with the Federal Reserve. Sounds pretty official, right? And now the rest of this, I want to talk about just going through some of these examples to show you how insidious this is and how pervasive it is throughout society. Sounds pretty official, right? Federal Reserve. Wrong. Despite its name, it's not actually federal. It doesn't actually hold reserves like you'd think. Really? Yeah. No, it's a private corporation. It's a private club. But instead of secret handshakes, they control the money supply. It's got owners, guys. This is the wealthiest people in the world that control the Federal Reserve and all the central banks, the Bank of International Settlements, the IMF, on and on and on. Don't believe me? Check out the sources like the book below, The Creature from Jekyll Island. Again, another book from the early 90s that uncover the truth behind the facade. G. Edward Griffin and The Creature from Jekyll Island are both in our Bitcoin trading cards, actually, that we have. That Series 1 and Series 2 are sold out already, but we have some more Genesis packs coming out soon that are going to be much cheaper and be able to spread the education a lot more as to things like this, what's actually happening in society. So go check this book out, though. Phenomenal book. I believe you can listen to it on YouTube as well. This is a must read. I mean, it's so sad and so insidious that if you were in a civics class or in an economics class as a high schooler, you should have to read this, right? But we just did a video earlier on government-run schools. That's why we got to stop calling them public schools, because they are government-run schools. There's a reason the government's not teaching you about this. The Inflation Reduction Act, a comedy of errors. Imagine if you were promised a diet plan that led to weight gain instead of loss. That's the Inflation Reduction Act. This act claims to fight inflation, yet it's like feeding money into a never-ending cookie jar. According to McKinsey, the company is spending over $500 million, or the government, not the company, the government is spending over $500 million of your money to fight inflation, which leads us to another weaponization of a word, inflation. Inflation is an expansion of currency supply, and that's it. Yet you have been told that it is rising prices. You've been gaslit to think that it's rising prices or Putin price hike or supply chain issues. No, those are symptoms of inflation. Those aren't inflation. Inflation is anywhere and everywhere an economic or anywhere and everywhere a monetary issue. That's it. It's an expansion of the currency supply. That is it. Solely. Done. They are a symptom of inflation, but not inflation itself. And right here, obviously, I have all the receipts in here for all these things we're talking about as well, by the way. So you can go in here and look to see what's actually happening and to actually check them out yourself. Welfare, when help doesn't help. Let's chat about welfare. It's supposed to be a safety net, right? But here's the twist. It often traps people in a cycle of dependency. Most welfare recipients are generational, meaning they never leave. They never leave poverty. It's a generational thing. And that goes along the mindset thing too, right? If you just throw cash at people, it doesn't make them wealthy all of a sudden. They might have some money, or some cash, they might be rich for a few minutes, but they don't have the right mindset, right? Broke is a is a is a state of being. Poor is a mindset. There's a big difference there on both ends of the spectrum. And that's something that Robert Kiyosaki taught me very early on. And that's something that we have to understand as well. But again, why isn't financial literacy? Why aren't these things taught in government run schools? We have to ask ourselves these questions. Only you can answer that question. Check out how many people are on welfare. When the program started in 1964, how much was spent, and how many are still on welfare. Poverty has decreased for the overall population since the 60s. Official poverty in the United States stood at 19% in 1964 and has decreased. And these are government numbers, by the way, government. So you know they're juiced to look even better than they really are. And I didn't look into all this. It was a huge report. I'm going to read it at some point. But this is 50 years later, the War on Poverty, a progress report, 50 years later. So you can go in and read all this and Google it very easily. But it's increased or decreased only 4 percentage points in 50 years. And do you want to know how much they spent on this? So there's still 15% of people in poverty as of 10 years ago. Only 4% in the government terms, which we know, like inflation, for instance, which we show all the time, is way understated. So do you think they're understating this? Again, only you can answer that. And the official percentage points for children have only gone down less than 2 percentage points in 50 years. Again, only you can answer what is going on here. Welfare means you are taking care of the people around you. However, the program has done nothing but incentivize waste and create dependency. Literally 25 trillion, not million. I put a million in here. 25 trillion. Let's fix that. Wow, that's embarrassing. 25 trillion spent on welfare since the inception in 1964, inflation adjusted, and we're down only a few percentage points in poverty rate. Wow. I wonder where all that cash went. Interesting. And have we educated people to lift themselves out of poverty, to understand how cash and society works, how money works, how finance, accounting, bookkeeping goes, how it works to make themselves better? And just like government-run schools, again, does throwing cash at something make it better? Again, only you know the answer to that. Look at schools, look at welfare. Just throwing cash at those problems continually. Well, we need more cash. We need more infrastructure. We need more cash for that. We need to pass this budget bill. Only you know the answer to that after looking at these numbers. Again, you decide. Social Security, a ticking time bomb. Social Security, a term that promises stability in our golden years. But guess what? The reality is more like a ticking time bomb. It's facing bankruptcy. Yes, you've heard that. It's facing bankruptcy, and yet people still continue to whistle by the graveyard. How does this persist? And again, here, from the Social Security Administration themselves, by 2037, they won't be able to make payments. And again, those are government numbers. I've heard 2028, I've heard 2030, 33, 32. Those are government numbers telling you they themselves say they can't pay by 2037. Social Security, again, here's NPR, another government organization, a government paid organization, is now expected to run short of cash by 2033. Hello. And again, for people that are worried about this, we should probably do something about it, number one. Number two, you still get your payment, though, whatever you're guaranteed right now. It'll be $1,000 a month, whatever. But $1,000 a month will buy you, a set of whatever groceries at that point, 10 years from now, 15 years from now. It's going to buy you one, week's worth of groceries, $1,000 will. So that Social Security payment that you're guaranteed now, they're just going to keep printing and make everyone else pay higher and higher prices to pay for your guaranteed fixed payment. That's how they'll do it, just through inflation. We'll all pay out the yin-yang and socialize the losses. And you'll still be poor because your $1,000 that you're banking on now might buy you a little bit more, but it might buy you a month of groceries, and now it's going to buy you a week of groceries or a couple of days of groceries. Gold hoarding, an Executive Order 6102, a twist of history. Imagine being told that saving gold is unpatriotic. Believe that. For decades, that was the case. That's a curious case of gold hoarding, an Executive Order 6102. Why is the government stealing property of its people? Why did they have their propagandists out the New York Times literally saying that it's hoarding gold, your own private property? The government once banned private gold ownership. Yes, for decades, from 1933 to 1971, early 70s. I can't remember now, mid 70s. You were once told you cannot hold your property and own it. Wild. Yes, indeed. And this was Oh, wow, I deleted it. Oh, darn it. Well, I deleted that, unfortunately. But I had a picture somewhere. I don't think I have it still. I'll have to find it and put it in here. But in here, it was a New York Times headline. The actual headline, I believe that was on April 6, 1933, the New York Times wrote under the headline of Hoarding of Gold. And basically gaslit Americans again. And then this is what they did. The main rationale behind the order was actually, so they said you're hoarding gold and like, oh, we need it for things. And then here's the main rationale, which Wikipedia even has it right. The main point was to actually remove the constraint on the Federal Reserve, preventing it from increasing the monetary supply, from printing more currency. During the Depression, the Federal Reserve Act 1913 required 40% gold backing, which they didn't have the backing for all of it anyway. They're already 60% down, right? Only 40% backing. So they wanted to remove that constraint. That was the whole point. They're gaslighting you again, telling you you're the wrong person, you're terrible, you're hoarding gold, your own private property, just so government can do whatever they want and redistribute the gains for wherever they want. Which I just saw Joe the plumber passed away, by the way, who called out Barack Obama in the 08 election, calling him out for that very thing, saying you're just going to, it's just welfare, like you're just redistributing, it's just communism, you're just redistributing the wealth to wherever you see fit. Who made you king? But that's what people want, unfortunately. The Bible even tells us that, right? We want to be king. We want a king over and over again. But hold on, there's more. The Patriot Act, that's meant to protect us, but invades our privacy. The Affordable Care Act, that ain't so affordable. Remember, you can keep your doctor if you want them. It'll only, your premiums will only be, it won't be more than $2,500. And I know mine personally went up by 10, 20, 30% every year for like 10 years until I finally was able to get rid of the healthcare and go to Crowd Health and go to these places that are way better than actual insurance companies. Clean energy subsidies that seem to boost profits more than the environment. Who would have thought? By the way, Barack Obama, Solyndra, his buddy, got paid out, laundering money basically through Solyndra. Went bankrupt right away. They gave him a bunch of money, gave him a bunch of cash, and that's how this racketeering works. That's how tax evasion, money laundering works. That's what's going on in the White House right now. This is what happens. This is the game that's played. When you give politicians the ability to print their own currency, they will destroy you and do whatever they want with it. Period. End of story. This is how I don't know how many times we have to continue talking about this before people start to truly get it, share these things out, and send them to the people who are, some people are completely brainwashed though, and there's no hope. But we only need 3% at the end of the day. We only need 3%. The psychology of confusion, fear and greed at play. Ever felt a shiver down your spine when hearing about imminent danger? That's fear in action. Governments masterfully use fear to manipulate us into compliance. And let's not forget greed, the age-old desire for more. Enough with the word games. We deserve transparency and honesty from our governments. Let's demand clarity in communication and promote accountability. This is why politicians that are seeking truth and asking real questions are gaining the most momentum. Not pretending they have the answers, but asking where the truth is, where the truth lies. Trump, Ramaswamy, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. That's why. Because they are looking for the truth and asking for the truth. They're not saying I have the truth. They are looking for it, and that's why they're gaining momentum. Politics is downstream from culture. Accountability is up to all of us being engaged, or at least the 3% of us being checked in at least. It's time to empower ourselves with knowledge and a touch of skepticism. The next time you encounter a mind-bending heap of word salad, remember to read between the lines. After all, words are like puzzles, and solving them can lead us to the truth. What media and government are talking about is usually what they want us to focus on, not what the actual truth may be. Stay strong. Please share this out. The algorithm hates truth. Truly, the more people have and are trying to uncover the truth, the better we are all going to be, the faster we are going to prosper, and the less collateral damage there will be. So please share this out. I appreciate you coming to my TED Talk. Question everything with boldness, even the existence of God himself. Trust but verify. It's not financial advice, it's freedom advice. And I'll see you on the next one.